Unboxing the all-new 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe. I'm Jay. Unfortunately, Steph can't be here, and this is Modern Motoring. It's a bit of a rainy day here out in the west coast of Canada, but that's okay. We're with the 2024 all-new 5th generation Hyundai Santa Fe. Let's just jump straight into it and talk about the driving impressions itself. So there's two engine options. Hyundai says the standard is the hybrid engine, which isn't here yet. It should be here, they're saying maybe April, maybe May, but I think April is a bit of a safer bet. And the engine that comes with the hybrid is a 1.6 liter turbo for 231 horsepower and 271 pound-feet of torque, all through a 6-speed automatic transmission. All-wheel drive is standard across the entire Santa Fe lineup. What I have here is the 2.5 liter turbo 4-cylinder engine, 277 horsepower, 311 pound-feet of torque, and the difference here is that it's run through an 8-speed automatic transmission. There are 3 drive modes here. It's normal, sport, and my drive. After driving it for about 6 hours today, I can say there's more than enough power here. Again, with the 277 horsepower, 311 pound-feet of torque. I'm happy they use the 8-speed dual-clutch transmission that they have in their toolbox, as opposed to the 6-speed here with the 2.5 turbo, or even a CVT version. The steering definitely isn't numb, and it's also not exciting. And consider the class of vehicle this is. You're not looking for excitement or extreme responsiveness as you'd get in a performance vehicle from Hyundai. It does fine. You point the nose where you want the vehicle to go, and it happily goes. As I lead into this set of turns, there's not a lot of body roll, and just looking at the Santa Fe from the exterior, you figure there would be, because it's a very tall vehicle, it's a very boxy vehicle, and it is definitely taller than it was in the outgoing generation. But yeah, I lean into it. It does very, very well. Again, minimal body roll considering the size of it, and it takes the turns pretty well now. The speed limit's 80. I'm hitting at 66, 67. Just being a little safe because the roads are wet. And yeah, no problems at all. To wrap up on the dimension side of it, the new Santa Fe is 45 millimeters longer than the outgoing model. It is 35 millimeters higher than the outgoing model. And interestingly, it's got the same width. A big difference here is the wheelbase, and that's been stretched by 50 millimeters. Let's jump into the fuel consumption side of things. So for the gasoline version, it runs off a 67-liter fuel tank on regular fuel. City streets see 12.1 liters per 100 kilometers. The highway sees 8.8 liters per 100 kilometers, and your combined total rings in at 10.6. Now, there's an XRT trim, which is their off-roady-ish-esque. It's about 1.4 inches taller than the non-XRT trims. And if you opt for that, which sits right in the middle of the lineup, your fuel figures go up a touch. Those figures are 12.2 liters per 100 kilometers on city streets, 9.1 on the highway, and a blended total of 10.8. So the only two numbers you really need to care about is if you go with the XRT, it's 10.8. If you go with just the regular version, it's 10.6. So a difference of 0.2 liters per 100 kilometers. When the hybrid does show up, here are your specs for that. That runs off a 1.6 liter turbocharged engine, 231 horsepower, 271 pound-feet of torque, and that runs off of a 6-speed automatic transmission. Interesting point here with the XRT trim, because it is a little more on the outdoor focused side. You can tow up to 4,500 pounds. Standard safety is a pretty lengthy list, and thank you Hyundai for doing that. You get your forward collision alert, you get your blind spot monitoring, you get your rear cross traffic alert, lane keep assist, lane follow assist, safe exit assist, the high beam assist, driver attention warning, and your adaptive cruise control. Now, the higher you go up in the trim ladder, the more you'll get. I asked a bit of a loaded question to Hyundai Canada, which was, where do you see the sales split happening between the gasoline and the hybrid vehicles? And it's hard to say right off the bat, because it's an all-new generation, it's an all-new vehicle. They expect 40% to opt for the hybrid, whereas 60% will opt for the gasoline version. Those numbers can change, and they probably will change depending on consumer behavior. Pricing does play a pretty big factor into that as well. We'll get into more of that a little later on in the video. As far as seating configuration goes, the first 4 trims get 7 seats. It's 2, 3, and 2, with the 3 being a bench in the middle, and those are the preferred with the Trend package, XRT, and the Luxury. If you opt for the Ultimate Calligraphy trim, you get captain's chairs in the middle, and that's a 2+2+2 configuration. I think that's going to change along with the consumer behavior and just what customers are asking for. Moving to the outside, it is quite a polarizing vehicle. And with this, I can almost say there's nothing quite like it on the road, but there are some elements of the Land Rover Defender that can be seen here if you look at it through a certain lens. It's a very upright shape. It's very boxy. The wheel arches are squared off as opposed to being round. You'll see the H motif all the way through, inside and out, as far as design language goes. It's the day runners, so there's little H's on each one of the headlights, and there's that light bar connecting them that makes it even bigger H. Same thing with the rear lights. Now, thankfully, the turn signals are not all the way in the bottom in the bumper. And if you're saying, I can see there's lights on the bumper, Jay, what's up with that? Well, that's a pretty smart move. So with the tailgate being so tall and so wide, and the cargo opening being so wide, and that light bar being on the tailgate, by law, you can't have a turn signal that's on a moving part of the vehicle unless you have something to replace it with when that tailgate is up. And that's what Hyundai's done. So there's a video clip here showing when the tailgate goes up, that second set of red lights at the bottom starts to flash, and those turn into, whether it's your turn signals or your hazard lights, that's the workaround for that. Now, from the rear, it kind of has a minivan-ish look, just again because the tailgate is so big, but it doesn't really bother me. And I think some people will absolutely embrace the design, and some people will say it's interesting, and it's just not for me. I like that Hyundai has thought out of the box, pardon the pun, but not really. And I like that they've come up with something so different than anything else in their lineup. Moving on to the inside, let's start at the front and work our way back. So you get a pair of 12.3-inch digital screens up front. It's a curved display, and that reminds me of BMW. Not a bad thing, it's a compliment if you're asking me. It's just enough of a curve that it's noticeable. It's not overly angled, and it looks pretty cool. Like, there's definitely a nice modern look to it, and I can see everything through the hole in the steering wheel as far as the digital instrument cluster goes. Top trim does get the head-up display, which is, again, a very nice little touch there. Onto the infotainment screen, which is what you and your passenger will work with. Very typical Hyundai, very well laid out. Not a lot of digging through menus to get to basic functions. Now below that is your HVAC system, and it's digital, and I don't love it. I don't like the idea of having to semi, if not fully, guess as to what I'm touching for the intensity of the fan, or where I want the air to blow, or if I want the air circulated, or if I want my front or rear defroster on. I would have liked maybe a few more hard touch buttons, if not all of them. Now, the temperature dials are physical, which is a really, really smart move there. And I guess you could set it to auto and just be on your way, but for those of us that don't like it or have a need for temperature change a little more often, I wish that it wasn't all on a screen. And finally, beneath that in your center tray are your wireless chargers, dual wireless chargers if you so opt for the right model. You get your USBs as well. And it's a nice open space, lots of storage here, and because it's a shift by wire, there's a pass-through underneath that gives you so much storage space. The gear selector is a stock off the steering wheel on the right side. The stock itself doesn't move. Instead, at the end, there's a piece you can twist forwards, backwards to go from drive to neutral to reverse, and you push in at the end of that stock to get to park. I like it because of the trade-off being I get a lot more storage space both at the top and that pass through at the bottom. Steering wheel is very Defender-esque with that long rectangular piece in the middle. Still have the same very familiar, very easy to operate thumb controls on the edges of the steering wheel. Again, you got your memory seats on higher trims, 2 positions, and they're big buttons on the door panels. Let's talk about the sunroof setup. So it's not quite a full panoramic one piece. Instead, the driver and front passenger get their own sunroof, and the rear passengers get something a little larger. Now, not every trim will have the 2 sunroof setup. For example, the XRT trim, which is the mid trim, only gets a front sunroof. There's nothing in the rear. The seat quality and comfort score very high with me. Again, spending 6-7 hours in the vehicle, no driver fatigue, and with the power seats up front on the top trims, very easy to find your ideal seating position. Here's a cool party trick. The center console opens forwards or backwards. I know some manufacturers have that butterfly system where it opens outwards, but Hyundai's like, well, in case somebody in the rear seats in the second row wants access to the center console, they can get it. Second row comfort scores high whether you're in the bench seat, which is the 3-seat configuration, or in the top trim calligraphy, which has the captain's chairs. It's interesting with the captain's chairs because the seat back is powered and the seat bottom is on rails and it has a power assist. So there's no latch that you lift up and just slide back and forth. You push a button that gives it its small power assist, and then you slide it forwards or backwards as you see fit. Now, because they're power seats in the top trim calligraphy, there are a couple of buttons in the trunk and the very rear portion that you press, and the seats slowly go down, as opposed to what we have in the other 4 trims, which is the bench seat, which is manual. So a lot faster if you're looking to collapse or raise the seats. Third row is great for headspace for me. It's got that nice long flat roof, and I've got a couple of inches to spare leg space, and getting my knees in there, a little bit of a different story. I'd be happy for about half an hour, maybe 45 minutes on a short drive, but I can't see a full-size adult having a lot of comfort back there. Couple of touches on some cool tech pieces here. Hyundai has equipped the Santa Fe for over-the-air updates, so that means no more going into a dealership and waiting and waiting and waiting for any updates for the operating system. Wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto are also standard features. Last thing is their ultraviolet sterilization compartment. It's just above the glove box. Pop something in there, and 10 minutes later, Hyundai says 99% of these surface germs will have been eradicated. Here is your MSRP for the 5 trims, and add on $2,000 for the freight and PDI. And what's interesting about that is the gasoline versions are made in Alabama, and the hybrid versions, which aren't here yet, are made in South Korea, but they've managed to keep it a flat $2,000 for freight and PDI. You start off in the preferred trim, $40,999 as your MSRP. Go up to the preferred with a trend package, that gets you up to $44,999. XRT, which is what you've seen in some parts of this video, and that gets you up to $46,999, so not too bad. You go up to the luxury and get you a lot more on the bells and whistles side, $49,999, so $1 less than 50 grand. And if you want the ultimate calligraphy with the captain's chairs and all the bells and whistles that you can get, $53,499. So it's not too bad on the pricing side, and you're getting a lot of value here. Now, if you're wondering how it competes with a Palisade on price, Palisade starts at $54,699, and Palisade goes all the way up to $58,299 for their ultimate calligraphy. So yes, they both have 3 rows, and they both have a lot of benefits for them. Very different vehicles, and Hyundai knows they'll be cross-shopped against each other. It just depends on what your needs are in a vehicle. Looking at other competitors that Hyundai had listed on their presentation, it's the Subaru Outback, it's the Kia Sorento, it's a pair of Hondas with the Passport and the Pilot, Toyota Highlander, Nissan Murano, which I don't think has much longer for this life, Volkswagen Atlas, and just to go back to bookend things with Subaru, the Subaru Ascent. So I know that you're thinking, those aren't all 3-row crossovers, those aren't all 3-row SUVs. What's the deal? The Subaru Outback is definitely a 2-row. Hyundai's looking at the bigger picture here. They're not exclusively looking at the 3-row side for competitors, because not everyone is going to end up using that 3rd row here in the Santa Fe. Some people may just permanently keep that 3rd row of seats down and just live with it, and just that's okay, because if they want something with a lot more cargo, but they don't want to go up to the Palisade, they can have this. So it's a little too early to say how the Santa Fe fares against them. Again, it's a first drive program. I think once we have this for a solid week and we get a lot more time behind the wheel, we can give you an updated opinion. And plus, you know, Steph will be here as well. And she can definitely offer her experience and expertise. And the handling is great. In this whole video, I've been on a very twisty road, and again, my body isn't sliding side to side. My camera bag isn't making any noise, for that matter, all the way in the third row. So Hyundai's done pretty well here. That's going to wrap it up for the 2024 Hyundai Santa Fe. If you have any questions on the vehicle, let us know in the comments. We are always happy to hear from you, and we are also always happy to engage in respectful discussions with you. Feel free to subscribe. If you like what you see, feel free to tell somebody else about the channel. We are also very active on all of our social media platforms, which are Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok, no longer on the other platform. Thank you so much for watching. We really do appreciate the support, and we look forward to seeing you next time.